Remember, please hit like and subscribe for me. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go.
Hi everyone, today is Tuesday, July the 1st, and this is the Moneyball Morning Report. My name is Anne-Marie Band, and let's take a look at what's going on for the next 3 days. We have PMI, ISM, construction spending. Jerome Powell's going to speak at 9:30. Don't know what he's going to say. Wednesday, a little quiet, but Thursday, which is a day that the market closes early, 1 p.m. Look at all of this news. So my suspicion is that over the next few days, we're going to see a combination of noise coming from what's going on passing the bill in the Senate, and then this news likely to bounce us around all over the place. We'll start looking at the Mini S&Ps and take a look at, well, Sally, yes, I have them right. So the opening range, not too bad. High to low looks like about 7 points, with the top being 6,250, the bottom being 6,243. Notice price action has moved above and below. Now, when we take a look at something like this, we could say, hey, listen, trend is up. Here's our trend line. I'm going to take a long up and over the opening range, and I'm going to try and take it into the prior resistance zone. You'll notice that it stops right here at the super trend in this formation, right? Let me change this line. That's the one thing I wish that TrendSpider did better. So 62.57 or so ends up being the high of the range, and you could also take the low, you could take the low break short in a mean reversion to this moving average. So both of these are quick strike trades. Now you can see that in hindsight, but the question is, can you see it from foresight? And so here's what I want to show you about Supertrend. The number one thing is Supertrend defines where support is and where resistance is, and what it gives you within that formation relative to trend, what you can trade. And so if we're staring that down, we realize there's a topping formation and there's a bottoming formation right over here in the past. The new expansion zone is way down below at 62.23. That's a pretty familiar number. We actually tested it yesterday. But the big kicker to tell you might have sideways motion is the slope of the VWAP. And this VWAP has no trend. And when you're trading with a VWAP that has no trend, you're going to find resistance at the top. You're going to find support at the bottom. My suspicion is that the market moves down into the mean reversion at the 53 simple moving average that gives us 62.23 to 62.26 as the target to the downside. Target to the upside, well, target to the upside is going to remain 62.57. That gives us a very tight range. If we break out, we're in the box that represents the highest volume of the prior day. That's what we're staring down. Expected move on the day, again, ranges are wide relative to price motion. 6,275 on the top, 6,215 on the bottom. I expect mean reversion and then a bounce. That's just my thought. Okay? Ideally, big range bound, we know what to do, right? Deep dips, going to be buy zones. You can tell from the stochastic that they are hunting for support. And so the break of the low of the opening range does give you the target down into these lower levels. Notice, when you take the short of the opening range, the stop is above the high of the opening range, which is why I like to short at the high of the opening range in mean reversion, and why I like to take a long at the low of the opening range if trend is moving to the upside. Let's take a look at the NQ. Same sort of thing, sideways VWAP, breaks the opening range on the high side, breaks the opening range on the low side. Notice how you read the super trend. The top represents resistance, and as price action moves down, that resistance area also moves down. It tells you where your relative stop is if you're trading on a tight formation. And of course, if you move to a 5-minute, you're going to see that support and resistance move. Look at the big sideways patch, though. That's pretty awful in terms of trading, but it does tell you, hey, listen, I know where my support levels should be. You just go back to the last zones that your super trend is showing as a front line. It gives you a target on the upside, but it also gives you, target on the downside going short, but it also gives you risk on the upside if you take that short. All right, let's go to the 1 hour chart. Opening range, also a little bit tight. High 22,886, low 22,852. So that's about, what, 24 points or so. Wow, not even 30 points, 30 something points. Okay, so tight, we moved above it. Notice the resistance area is here, well above the area. That would be the target if you would go long. But looking to the left, you can see that there's resistance. So you want to use a combination of appearances to help you decide how you're going to use this super trend. I'll be using the super trend a lot more when we do some Top Step X videos, really trying to help folks get a little bit better on that platform in terms of using the tools that are currently available. What is the target? Well, the first target is going to be yesterday's low, 22,789. You can see them coming into the area. The 63 simple moving average, let me collapse that. 63 simple moving average is giving us this potential bounce zone. You know, my thought is just move your stop down to the VWAP and take part of your profit when it gets into 789. All right, that is my suspicion as to where price action might go. Actually, I think it could go into this box here. The high volume candlestick occurred way up here at the 3 p.m. hour. That's been happening a lot lately, 3 p.m. And we're already below it. And so the buyers here are now sort of crossing their fingers, hoping that the high of the last high volume candlestick will bring them support action. It's also very close to the low of the expected move anticipated today. That's 22,731. High of the expected move, 23,010. As I've said probably 10 times before, when you get to this area, it doesn't mean that you go, oh, I'm going long. Trend gives you the opportunity to say, hey, I might be going long here, but you've got to let price action tell you that it is moving up. Okay? That's what we're staring down. Pullbacks or buy zones, momentum showing that they are hunting for support. So only the turn in momentum will confirm that upside rotation. So if you're looking for bottom picking, you probably want to go to really tight moving average and see how it holds at the baseline there. I would not be surprised to see a fade, since the volume up, although consistent, has been lower over the last couple of weeks. Let's go to the YM. E-mini Dow, tight formations. You know, this one looks quite a bit different to the others. It has not lost the low of the opening range. That opening range low is 44,324. The high of the opening range, 44,368. Notice the breakout of the opening range, if you're so inclined, because you've got a super trend showing you support below, you could say, hey, I'm taking the long. Look at where it stops, right at old resistance. Also happens to be right at the edge of the super trend as well. What's the trade here? Man, it is range bound. Momentum is down. The moving average really pretty far away, and so my thought would be let the dip happen before you take a long, or if it bounces and then rejects, you can take a short back into this big sideways pressure that it looks like we're about 2 days into, right? And this is inventory accumulation after a very big move to the upside. That's natural, and I wouldn't be surprised to see that inventory collect just a little more before price action does what it's going to do. And I can tell you, I do not know. I don't. We are sitting inside the high volume candlestick of yesterday, and so that tells us that it's still rangy inside. If it breaks above 44,438, we have pretty good range expansion. If we break below 44,279, you know, we've got about 80 points to the downside and potentially more, but hard to say. Truly tough to say here. I would be very careful trading through these patches, as it could go either way, right? We are looking for edge, and when we can't stare at a chart and immediately go, oh, okay, I know what I need to do here, that's telling us something on its own. All right, taking a look at micro Bitcoin. And do remember, folks, as I go through these charts, you literally can trade any instrument using these techniques, anything, because the human condition is driving the price action. And for those that go, hey, algos are, you know, they're not human, but we program them, and we can't help but programming ourselves into the elements of the things that we create. Okay? Let's take a look at the opening range for micro Bitcoin. Low 107,495, high 107,895. So, you know, what are we looking at? A little bit less than 400 points. We just kiss out of the opening range high and then collapse right back into it. Notice, sideways trend here, big spike up, downward trend here according to the VWAP. The moving average, flat. So this tells you we're going to have candlesticks that retrace each other. Overall trend formations are telling us high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, higher low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, breaking to the edge of the formations. The last bearish candlestick of size in this range is right down here at the pocket of 106,850. That's fairly close to yesterday's expected move. So let's squeeze in and see what the price action is telling us. Yeah, it's telling us that traders are going to try and buy this price action here. That being said, the trend is down in terms of the VWAP action. Here is downward formation that turns around in the stochastic, and now we have the flattening. We have to wait for it to turn around. What does that mean? You know, for it to be actually solid as a short, the stop is going to be way up here at 107,913. You could take it at the base of the opening range, but we've already gone in to that structure. Once in a while, when things get tight like that, I will put a Fibonacci there. So maybe if it doesn't cross 107,700, you might see something that's worthwhile. Bounces are clearly sell zones here, but we are at the base of a 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the 5th day of the range. So we could easily slam through and move down into these lower edges. My thought is that our target points for low action, 106,277. For the high action event, I'm going to put it right up here with the heavy congestion. Also, yesterday's closing VWAP, that's at 108,260. Let's go to copper. Copper, of course, doesn't trade options dramatically, so we are just looking at price action. We also have the chart in rollover. Pretty big volume candlestick, relatively speaking here, and they just broke out of it, notice. Big spike out, comes back in, tests the area, and it moves to the north. What is momentum telling us? Well, it's positive, but it's pretty wiggly. Moving average up to flat, VWAP very flat. So what's the trade long here? You're going to have to wait it out. Because if you take a trade long here in this area, the super trend is actually telling you that the stop is well below, right? Almost 80 ticks, which is significant for this chart, significant. And so if you're going long, be patient, wait for the pullback into heavy congestion. If you're going short, wait for the price action to double top so that your risk is very, very small. Ugly chart. Nat gas. This one has been on, holy cow. This is like a meteor falling to earth. It is just falling off a cliff. No idea why, but the move down has been very dramatic. Very, very dramatic. Where are we sitting now? Low of, what day is that? June 25th. Low of June 25th. Is price action telling us that there's a potential bounce here? Yeah. Why? Momentum is divergent. Notice we have a higher low in momentum and a lower low in price. Now, is that the only thing we need to look at? No. We've got to get back above that VWAP. And that VWAP is currently sitting at $3.40. The expected move high for nat gas today, $3.54. Expected move low, that's right on the weekly. Expected move low is $3.36. I'd watch for price resolution right around here. Wait for it to fade completely and then recover. And then you've got yourself a better shot at a long. Otherwise, the top of the opening range at $3.46 going to give us the ideal short here in this particular formation. Let's take a look at oil. Crude oil futures, look at the range here. Mercy. Look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a range. Now, it's going to break, but we don't know when. And so here's the question, what's the trade? So from this sideways pressure event, I would suspect that dips are buys and big bounces are sells. And the bounces I would look at are the high volume candlesticks of prior days. That's going to give me, what is that one? Whoa, that's way up there. That's going to give me somewhere around 66.38 as my target zone. Big bounce in the early morning. The opening range for oil was about, I don't know, 20 cents maybe. Low 64.83, high 65.02. And so notice it broke the bottom, held the prior floors, higher lows, and then turned around, broke the top, came back, broke the bottom again, and held the floor. This behavior right here tells you how to manage this formation. Now, what makes you know that it's very likely to break the top and the bottom? It's this ugly flat VWAP. Ugly flat VWAP tells you, uh-oh, if I break the top or I break the bottom, I'm likely to retrace. And so here we are at the top of the expected move, $65.79. I expect a retrace, though that VWAP is continuing to rise. Old resistance 65.27 could easily be new support on some kind of break higher. Okay, trend is certainly picking up. Momentum tells us we're looking for sellers. The trade action, if you take a look at the super trend, really the floor is at 64.40. The ceiling is at 66.60. And so you're sitting in a space that's pretty tricky. If it were me, I would wait for the fade, or I'd end up sitting like this most of the day. I don't think that oil is going to break out today, but I do think oil is very likely to break out at some juncture. I do believe that the days of cheap oil are in the rearview mirror over time, for sure. All right. Low of the expected move, $64.05. As I mentioned, high of the expected move, $65.80. Where do I think the downside target might be if it faded? I don't think it'll lose 64.05 unless something really dramatic comes out of the news, and then it should recover. All right, let's take a look at gold. Okay, this is bizarre. Wait a second. Did I not? Do I have this in the twos? Hang on. GC2. Yeah, there we go. Contract rules always make things a little bit crazy. All right, so, oh my goodness. I don't know what news came out other than, the dollars falling through the floorboards. But this is crazy. A long time ago, far, far away, we used to have harmonic patterns used to be very popular back in the early 2000s. And this is a harmonic pattern, right? This is probably a bat, but let me have a look. Yeah, right? And so, could be a crab. But the targets on these, way up here, 3,400. I don't know that that's going to be us at this time, but holy smokes, that is a great big move. That is a gigantic move, but notice. Remember how I said what gold does? It sits, it moves really fast, really high for a while, and then it collapses into a range. This is a range. This is a very big range, but it is a range. And so my suspicion is that we are approaching resistance on a much bigger time frame. Let's see what we get. Wow, look at that. That's very interesting. Yeah, there's our range. It started in about April, and literally it's just moving from the bottom of the range to the top of the range, and now it's at the midpoint. That is a higher low. It is a nice bounce off of the area. So 3,400 to 3,450 potentially, and then it moves sideways again. What's today's opening range? It is low 3,313, high 3,326. The implied move on the day, 3,335. We are now printing 3,364. This ledge here fills a gap. I suspect we are very close to the top of today's range. However, if you're saying to yourself, ooh, maybe I can trade this short, you better be careful. See momentum here? Monstrous. That is pegged to the upside. Higher lows, higher highs, all the way across, all the way up. The dip's going to get bought. My thought is that this is a short squeeze. If it's not news, it's a short squeeze. And if it's a short squeeze, it could stay higher. We want to see 33.55 break down. Super trend support is way down here, 33.41, and it's very close to the implied vol move on the week, which is 33.36. Low of the implied move. Why is that one not showing? Oh, yes, it is. Here it is. Low for the move today, 3,293. I'm going to use this combination of this low here, 3,286. Nah, it probably won't go there. Nah, yeah. I'm going to say that that's what I suspect would be the absolute low if this turned around and moved all the way in the other direction. But that's what we've got. Big, big move to the upside here. Right at a zone that looks like it could collapse. If you want to be brave, try a micro and wait for the topping formation, folks. It's got to break support. And right now we've got 4 hourly candlesticks sitting at 3,360. All right, let's go to SPY. I wonder how many of us actually listen to the SPY part. Okay, so here we go. SPY, tight range for a couple of days actually. Could be a mean reversion trade, right? Super trend support is $614.46. Low of the expected move, $613.79. High of the expected move, $620.49. And it's got no upward track for resistance. So I'm going to put it on the prior day's high at around $619.16. I do believe we stay landlocked today. We could fill the gap below, and that puts us at the expected move for the downside target. Come on, behave. It's not moving. There we go. Which is around that 613.79. Lastly, let's look at the Qs. Tight opening range formation, breaks the top, and then collapses down. How do you know? Sideways VWAP. Sideways VWAP tells the tale every time. Where's the low of the expected move today? $548.26. High of the expected move today, $554.24. Again, volatility is expanding. I don't think we break the high of yesterday. That's my thought. Momentum drifting lower. We're trying to do some sort of mean reversion. VWAP is flat, so sideways candlesticks on the horizon. Be careful. Wait for the trade and do not chase it. Don't chase it. If it misses you because you weren't paying attention, do something else until the next setup comes along. All right? Take care, everybody. Today, you'll see me on Lunchbox Trading, Top Step TV. You'll see me on the Benzinga Options Show. That's at 11 a.m. And I'm looking forward to interacting with each of you. Take care.